Mainoo, no. That's a step too far. If we can't give Kobbie Mainoo a job in that two in midfield, I look at Mainoo and I look at the way he plays football and I think, I tell you what, a top club will want him. Now, why can't we make him a top player? If he's one of ours and he's shown talent. Now, I don't know what's going on there in the last few months. He's obviously had some injuries this season, which has obviously caused him a problem, so he needs to stay fit. But I'd like to think that he could be one of that two in midfield that Ruben Amorim plays. It's probably not Casemiro as his partner, being honest with you. It's probably not Agate as his partner. It's probably someone else in there that's, better than those two, being honest.
If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And as ever, something is bubbling up inside of you. If something is on your mind that you need to express, please express it in the comments. The Big D reads all of the comments. And he's always interested in what is on your mind. And for some reason, he's holding the microphone like he's some Westlife singer or some Take That singer trying to sing Pray or Babe or Relight My Fire. But the Big D can't sing, so he's not going to do that to you, his viewers, because he respects your eardrums. Anyway, sometimes when the Big D listens to some of these clips, he wonders if some of these pundits are watching German kink films or something like that, because what they say is bizarre. Bizarre. Anyway, so Gary Neville was talking about Kobbie Mainoo there, but the Big D will get into that in just a quick second. Please, have a little listen to Gary. Stick around for after the clip, because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts about what Gary has to say about Kobbie Mainoo and all the other things that Gary Neville talks about in the clip. Here's Gary.
Gary, let's talk a little Premier League. Obviously, it's all done and dusted, so we're already moving on to some new players and some new faces. Manchester United, your lot, have brought in Matheus Cunha from Wolves. We knew that it was going to happen. 62.5 million, I think, is the price.
As a United fan, the season's finished. Obviously, it couldn't have gone worse. Let's be clear. Even the post-season tour, when you've seen some of the headlines from that, you're just watching it and you're in despair thinking, just let's give up. Let's stop playing football for 5-6 weeks. Let's just get out of here. But we should be excited. When your club signs a player, you should be excited. We know that some of the players that are playing in this position are going to leave. We know that. We know United have not had players in that position this season because Rashford, Sancho, Antony have all been put out on loan. Garnacho, we think's more than likely going to go now with what's happened in the last week. So you've got a situation where Cunha, who, his goals have been growing in the last couple of years, had a decent return for a club that's been nearer the bottom of the Premier League than obviously the top. But am I excited? Yeah, I am. I'm excited by it because United need players who I think know the Premier League, who have got a bit more robustness about them in terms of what they've sort of been through before. And being at Wolves, that'll be bloody tough, by the way, because they lose quite a few matches, Wolves. I'm hoping that he comes to Old Trafford and sees this vast pitch, this amazing stadium with 75,000 fans who love a player who can take someone, who love a player who can travel with the ball. I'm hoping that he can bring a shine of light. And I'm not saying one player is never going to change what's going on at the moment, but one player can be a spark. One player can be a spark. We've seen that with games where Bruno has lifted United from being sort of ordinary, bang average and poor to being okay and winning matches. Now, if you can put, we don't know what's going to happen with Bruno, but if Bruno can start to link with Cunha and Cunha can bring the form that he's had, and you can start to add a couple of more in there as well, another forward, obviously, another wide player or so. You've got Ahmad there. You might think, okay, things are starting to get a little bit sort of more decent. But look, far too early to say. This is someone who's not getting carried away sat here on the 1st of June, when, to be fair, we just had the most horrendous season we've ever had, or one of the most horrendous seasons we've ever had. So, yeah, but I am excited by it. I think he's the right type. He looks like the right type.
Sancho's been at Chelsea, of course, scored in the Conference League final, lovely goal, but no news about whether or not he's staying. Rashford's been at Villa, did okay. No news about whether or not Villa want him. Mainoo's future's been up in the air for a while. Garnacho, you've mentioned, not happy clearly at the club. And Antony, who went to Real Betis and did an interview recently talking about how awful his time at Manchester United was. What do you think about those five in terms of who would you try and keep, if any?
I mean, with Bruno, I was 50-50, and I think that, to be fair, maybe quite a few fans maybe think one way or the other, but on these 5, I'm pretty certain. Marcus Rashford has to leave for him and for the club. I think that ship has sailed, and I think that he needs to find himself another club. I would worry that Villa haven't announced that they're keeping him already, because I think that could have been an easy deal to do with United if they were going to keep him. So it sounds to me like Villa aren't going to keep him, and United are going to end back up with him. But I would say that for Marcus's sake and for United's sake, that it feels like that path's come to an end. For Jadon Sancho, a little bit similarly with Marcus, I'd be a bit concerned that Chelsea haven't made the noises that they're going to keep him. Again, I think Manchester United have to make sure that basically they part ways with him. And I think for Jadon's point of view, he has to make sure that he parts ways with Manchester United. Antony, I think the interview is absolutely spot on. I can imagine he was absolutely going under while he was at Old Trafford. He's gone to Spain. Having seen a couple of players at Old Trafford that I played with not do it at Old Trafford but do it in Spain, and being in Spain for 4 or 5 months over there with Valencia and seeing the types of players, I think he's absolutely suited down to the ground, and it's been proven to be over there.
Why?
Just honestly, you over there is a different tactical awareness, there's a different technical ability, and there's the way of playing that's just more suited to players. So the players that I'm referring to are players like Kleberson or Diego Forlan. They just didn't quite happen for them. But they had really good careers, by the way. I mean, Diego Forlan was sensational in Spain.
Yeah.
And I think there are players like that sometimes that just aren't suited to a league. And I think that, for me, Antony's perfect for Spain, perfect to play over there. Again, somebody that Manchester United should facilitate leaving. Best for Antony, best for the club. Garnacho, I think if players are taking on the manager, and if players are questioning the manager in public through social media or through other means, the manager has to win. If the manager doesn't win, the manager has to leave. And I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think that's happened far too many times before. So I think Garnacho will leave just purely because of that. I think they've had enough. I think Garnacho, again, suited, I think, down to the ground. I mean, he can play in the Premier League, no doubt, but I think he'll love it in Spain. I think he'll thrive over there. I think he'll score goals. He'll probably be somebody next season that we're all looking back at and thinking, why did Manchester United keep him? That type of thing will happen with him probably. There's an element of that, but I think he has to go. And that's not me sort of throwing my toys out of the pram and saying, get him out of the club. No, I think for him and the club, I think it's right that he goes. Those 4 players, I think, should leave. Not just because Manchester United should let them go, but because they should, I think, go and find themselves a place in their lives where they can go and play football, because it's not at Old Trafford. Mainoo, no. That's a step too far. If we can't give Kobbie Mainoo a job in that 2 in midfield, I look at Mainoo and I look at the way he plays football and I think, I tell you what, a top club will want him. Now, why can't we make him a top player? If he's one of ours and he's shown talent. Now, I don't know what's going on there in the last few months. He's obviously had some injuries this season, which has obviously caused him a problem, so he needs to stay fit. But I'd like to think that he could be one of that 2 in midfield that Ruben Amorim plays. It's probably not Casemiro as his partner, being honest with you. It's probably not Agate as his partner. It's probably someone else in there that's, better than those 2, being honest. But I think we should be building around Kobbie Mainoo in that centre of midfield, not just because he's come through the ranks. I'm all right for getting rid of players that have come through the ranks, but not players who've come through the ranks and haven't had the ability to go and show what they can do. Marcus Rashford's been at the club a long time. Garnacho's now had probably 2 or 3 years where he's basically tried to and there's obviously a bit of a situation going on as well. But Mainoo's a no for me. That boy doesn't leave.
Anyway, Gary Neville was saying there that Manchester United should be building around Kobbie Mainoo. And I agree on that. Kobbie Mainoo is class. I really like Kobbie Mainoo. You put him in a team that's organised, that knows what they're doing, that are winning. Kobbie Mainoo slots right in, no problem, and he becomes an integral member of that starting 11. Not squad, starting 11. And that's Kobbie Mainoo. He's good, he's that talented. I really like Kobbie Mainoo. If he's sold, then, well, no. Like, people are talking about people who suit Ruben Amorim's system, blah, blah, blah. The only people that don't suit Ruben Amorim's system are wingers who can't learn how to be number 10s. You can get fullbacks that can learn how to be wing backs. That's fine. You've got plenty of number 10s. The only players that can't suit Ruben Amorim's system are wingers. And that's why Garnacho is on his bike. That's why Marcus Rashford, jumped on his Lance Armstrong bike a long time ago, because they can't learn how to be number 10s and they can't learn how to be number 9s either. So that's why they're not. Well, that's why Marcus Rashford's not there now. And that's why Alejandro Garnacho is probably out the door with Ruben Amorim's big toe up his backside. Anyway, Kobbie Mainoo. That's what I was talking about. Kobbie Mainoo. He's a central midfielder. He can either play deep-lying playmaker or he can play further forward. Either way, there's plenty of positions in a Ruben Amorim 3-4-3 system where he can play that role. So, he can slot in nicely. He just maybe needs to learn a little bit, fair enough. But this nonsense about maybe not next to Casemiro, why? Why would Casemiro not be an ideal partner for Kobbie Mainoo? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Casemiro is a multiple-time Champions League winner. He's played at international level, played for Real Madrid, played with some of the best players of all time. Not just best players of this era, best players of all time. So why wouldn't Kobbie Mainoo not learn next to Casemiro? Kobbie Mainoo is a player next to Casemiro in this day and age that's got legs, which is what Casemiro needs. I could maybe understand maybe not next to Ugarte, who is young himself, that still needs to learn a couple of bits. But next to Casemiro, no. A wise head next to some young legs is always a good combination. So what's Gary Neville talking about? He's talking nonsense because the Big D said so. Anyway, I do agree with what Gary Neville says when he says one player can create a spark. I agree wholeheartedly. I've said many times before, in videos before, that one man doesn't make a team. And he doesn't. But one man does make a difference. Eric Cantona, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, Roy Keane, players who make a difference. So if Manchester United get a number 9 that can put the ball in the back of the net and keep it simple, that's it, it's football. It's not a Tesla rocket science space project to Mars. It's 11 men versus 11 men putting balls in the back of nets. That's all it is. It's not rocket science. Anyway, so I agree with Gary on that point. If we got a Ruud van Nistelrooy in, we sort up the table. That's that. Anyway, of all of those players that have been out on loan, so Rashford, Sancho, Antony, all those guys, yeah, Rashford's finished. He's had his chance. He doesn't suit the system, and he doesn't seem to have the attitude to want to adapt. So, bye. No problem. You've went to Aston Villa, who do suit your style, and you haven't exactly set the world alight. Jadon Sancho, although you have done well at Chelsea, your attitude just doesn't suit Manchester United because you don't have the work ethic. Now, Anthony. See, the thing is with Anthony, his first season wasn't too bad, I know we paid. See, his stint at Man United is marked by the fact that we paid a lot of money for him. And that's fair enough. I can understand why people would think that. Now, it's not his fault that Manchester United paid that much money for him. That's just the people who've done the deal. If they wanted to spunk that much money on Anthony, then they're the idiots for doing that. Now, what they should have done is maybe pay 40 and then do add-ons or something like that, depending on how many games and how many goals and how many assists and how many trophies he wins for Manchester United. But they didn't do that, did they? No, they didn't, because bloody stupid. Anyway, Anthony, his first season wasn't too bad. Like, if you take out the 80 million that we spent for him, if it was just a kid that was coming through, you'd think, yeah, he looks all right, fair enough. Now, his second season, he had some personal issues. So, you know, he kind of went belly up. Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, this season, he's went to Betis, and he's literally set La Liga on fire. So, I would argue that he would deserve another stint at United. But at the same time, if we're buying Cunha and Bruno staying, we've still got Xerxes, we've still got Mason Mount, we've got Diallo, and if Mbeumo comes in as well, then he might struggle to get an opportunity. So it's funny, but he has done well enough to warrant a second chance. But we'll see. Maybe they'll just think to cut his losses like they did with Mason Greenwood, who should still be at Manchester United, because he's tore it up in League One, you know. But what can you do? Innocent until proven guilty. You know, where's common sense and all of that, you know? But what can you do? Anyway, what do you guys think? Is the Big D talking nonsense? Is he being controversial? Is he just being a contrarian? You tell me. Thoughts in the comments. Big D, we'll see you in the next one.